All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to GovCon Unscripted. I'm your host, Chelsea Roberts, and today I've got with us friend and colleague, Tanwilson. Tan, who are you and what do you do?
I don't know some days. Today, I think I'm president and CEO and founder of Entellect LLC. Other days, mom to Henry. Thanks for having me. I'm the president of Entellect, and we do BD capture proposal support, all things GovCon in both the state, federal, and local levels. Also, I think today we're doing a dual podcast recording,
Yes.
which is fantastic. I love cross collaboration with other partners in the industry. And so I'm also the founder and host of Tanstwocents.
Awesome. And your podcast does exceptionally well. I love everything that you put out. It's just, you are one of those folks that does stay intellectually curious, and you're a lifelong learner like myself. So I'm always scoping out your content.
I tell you, there are things that I love about this industry. You are really knowledgeable in areas that I'm not. So I think we all learn from each other, which is great.
Definitely. And today's conversation is going to be a little bit more easygoing and just back and forth flow, which I love. I think we wanted to touch on a couple of points and bring people up to date and give some folks hopefully some helpful advice and insights. And I think the first topic that we wanted to jump in on was grifters and the carnival barkers that are out there. Now, I've seen just this past year alone a massive increase, and I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of the same, and just a massive flood of information. It's hitting all the social channels, hitting all of the practical platforms for folks that are looking for insights and guidance, and they have traditionally turned to things like LinkedIn in the past to get some more of those professional voices in their heads and follow those folks that are knowledgeable. But there seems to be a lot of noise on LinkedIn these days. And I'm curious what your take on that is.
There's so much noise, right? And I think everyone's becoming a little bit more social media savvy. I'm a Gen Xer. So there are some colleagues and I know some friends who can't navigate their smartphone. And then there's those like me who's, ooh, like newest, latest technology. I need to see it, break it, touch it, and feel
Yes.
it. And I think that there's like this huge divide between those of us who cut our teeth in GovCon 20 plus years ago, like Entellect will be in business 20 years October.
Wow.
And so we've come up through GovCon in a very different way. And there are some graybeards who are, we've done it this way, this is how we've always done it. And it's lost its touch and message with other people who are coming up through GovCon. So I said, in some regards, I think a lot of the social media noise on YouTube and LinkedIn is great because I think it's a great avenue for like yourself and me and other people who can leverage it and get the good message out there. But there's always going to be this very predatorial type of, and I use the hashtag and I created it, GovCon grifters. There are grifters out there in GovCon. And if they're coming in and guaranteeing your wins, or I've won millions of dollars, and I always cringe when I see these videos of like dollar signs. And I was like, I feel like I'm watching late night TV and it's an infomercial or something. What is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. They've got such loud voices, and it's all so bright and shiny, and it's all very much, I've done this amazing thing and I can do it for you too, and you're going to absolutely love it. And then it comes down to the fact that they don't have any sort of practical past performance. They don't have any reasonable strategies. And I think a lot of them, unfortunately, are just getting established now, too, because they've come out of perhaps a government role and they think that they know everything that there is to know about government contracting from their 10 to 15-year position on the government side.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But the other thing too is some, I'm not going to name names to protect the guilty, is some have won one contract and it was
Right.
part of a larger group. And now they're like,
Yeah.
I've won or managed this large of a contract.
Yeah.
Once does not make like years of experience and producible and specific wins. And so I get it, fake it until you make it, you know, like statement. I can understand that, but some of them are actually putting out incorrect information,
Oh, yeah.
things that could get you in jail, right? Like it's fraud. And so you really do have to fact check. And I think fact
Yeah.
checking nowadays is so much more important and it's so much more dangerous. Like we thought Google was bad when people
Yeah.
were Googling things. Now with AI, like last night I was doing a research on vets too. And the perplexity was telling me that I, Entellect LLC, with my UEI number, had a vets 2 contract.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Congratulations to
Yeah,
me.
right? That's so great.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's terrifying.
it
It's
is.
absolutely terrifying. And that's a new brand of hallucination. And I similarly was reading on a protest that had been submitted, several protests actually, that have been submitted on like by basically this company that had just included all of these absolutely incorrect and fabricated actions. Yes. And I got a little bit of a chuckle out of that because I'm like, is
Yeah.
this going to be the new bots thing
Yeah,
that they've just got this?
and the bot thing is another thing too, right? I get that
Right.
in my LinkedIn inbox all the time, these
Oh, yeah.
bots, and they're like, oh, we're so impressed with what you've been able to do. And I'm like, thanks. And that's the whole reason why when I do things like this and they're like, how do we find you? How do we get in touch with you? Get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You can go through my website, you can go through my podcast, but you need to tell me specifically in your own words where you met me, what you heard of me, and why we should connect. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I may never connect with you.
Yeah,
So,
it's not just the I hear you do great things and you've come so far with this amazing podcast that you have. We're a podcast company and we would love to promote your
yeah,
okay, great.
every day.
Thanks. Yeah, it's so much flattery and so much self-appreciation that they put into these messages. It's just incredible. But I think that makes it all the more difficult, especially for those sort of newer and up and coming companies to sort through the wheat from the chaff and really understand whose voices they should be listening to, what sort of
Mhm.
opinions they should be taking. And I know you've got strong opinions, which is one of the one things that no, never. But some folks out there are blasting just absolutely things that are just biased or just blatantly wrong. And they're gaining traction, they're gaining
Yeah,
momentum. So
clickbait. So
it is, it totally
you
is.
and I will survive the clickbait trend.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how far they will get it. And every time I start out with a new company, I'm always first things first. Okay, who have you worked with? What's your experience been before? And what were you guaranteed or what promises were they making to you
Mhm.
before? Because so many of these companies come in and they're like, I've been burned by a consultant in the
Oh yeah,
past. And okay, let's work through that trauma really
let's
quickly.
unpack that a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
let's go
therapy
through that.
session.
It is. It totally is. And it's so worthwhile, though, because it's so prevalent and it's a predominant thing that's going on within the industry. And I mean, that you can spend quite a bit of money getting lost in some of this
Very
grift.
expensive. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely been not only, I think, a challenge for those coming out of government service, that it's how do you not get wrapped up into participating in that sort of grifty industry because it sounds like it's so great. It's like multi-level marketing. You're going to make a ton of money and we're just going to teach you how to do it. And then you're going to bring on other salespeople and then they're going to know how to do it. And it just keeps going and going. It's one of those interesting, lively trends on the internet.
It's unfortunate.
It definitely is. Now, a couple of other things I know we wanted to touch on and things that you've seen change just overall this past year. This is, I don't know about you, but this has been a pretty different year for GovCon in general.
Yeah, so there are probably many people who haven't survived multiple administration turnovers and changes in administration. So I think memories are short sometimes when it comes to administration changes. And it always happens. Every administration, there are shakeups, there are changes. People in key positions will move. But I've said this earlier on, and we met with a lot of customers back in January, and we were talking about what does the new administration and what will the Doge effect have on your company? And we help guide some of our customers through that. And we're trying to read the tea leaves at the same time. So I have my one girlfriend who's a fighter pilot. And she's like building an airplane while you're trying to fly it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have used that term over the past year. And so I think this year has been very dominated and with executive orders, obviously currently and all this summer, the FAR overhaul. And for those of us who are older, this is not the first time. This is not the first time it's been threatened. It's just the first time it's been fast track. It's kind of like getting the Disney like fast pass.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to skip the line and just get to the ride. And it's been a bit of a ride. And then there's that unknown like Doge effect. But I don't think those of us who have been in industry should be surprised. And I don't think many of us were surprised. The president came out, campaigned on all of it, was very adamant about it. But to this level of speed, I think is something that is a little disconcerting. We know government, risk averse, moves very slow. Right or wrong, I'm not here to judge. It is what it is. And I think that you need that balance. I think in industry and in the commercial sector, we move at like lightning speed.
Right.
You do need to kind of balance that out with some deliberate, tempered, balanced, cautionary type of approach, because with a company, you're talking about a company, you're talking about a very contained organization. But if you're trying to take something to a mass enterprise level to the nth degree, which is the federal government, you do need to have a little bit more of a, hey, let's think this through here. Let's be a little strategic. And I think in some regards, this is where the administration really missed the opportunity is they could have been strategic and still expeditious at the same time, but they chose to go for the clickbait, the instant gratification. And I think that's really systemic of us as a society right now.
Yeah, attention spans have never been shorter, right? So if you're going to do something, you've got to do it immediately without any thought or any sort of strategic planning behind it, and then fix it later, clean up the mess later. That seems to be the approach that we're going for these days, which there's something to be said about speed and about having the opportunity to make things go faster at a sort of meta level. But in reality, I think that they're coming into a lot of the challenges that I am assuming that we all predicted that they would come out with in this situation, which is we canceled a lot of contracts, we terminated a bunch of people, but now we're really realizing, oh darn, we needed those people and we needed some of those contracts. So now we're going back and trying to reactivate, rehire, trying to bring folks back into the fold. And I think that it's just from my perspective, that has to be absolutely destructive to culture, and the organizational morale as a whole has to go down at that level.
Yeah, I think totally. And here's the interesting thing is that your LinkedIn and my LinkedIn feeds are probably very similar because we work in the same industry. I would love to see and get a snippet of what other people's industries feeds look like, right? Especially on the commercial side. Are they seeing and feeling the same impacts that we are? Because it is very demoralizing. And here's the thing. I'll make no bones about it. I am a very fiscal conservative. And so there is a lot of waste. I've seen so much waste. I've seen so many contracts and so many solicitations that I look at them and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? Okay, I don't make the rules. I just play the game. But why are we spending money? Why is there a contract for this specific service or product, whatever, fill in the blank type of thing? But so yes, I think there was waste. I think there could be a lot of efficiencies in there. The dust is settling, but the aftershocks are going to be, we're going to be experiencing the aftershocks for quite a while. And I want to say it probably will be another at least good 9 months until we really get into a stable place. And it almost reminds me of a really bad company acquisition that I was part of, where my company was being acquired. And everybody's jobs were cut at the top, including myself. And it wasn't until the acquiring company came in and started peeling back the onion because the owner misrepresented in the sale did they realize, oh crap, if we don't keep these people or if we don't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to lose all of our investment. in this organization. And so what that really taught me on the commercial side is you can't come in and just fire at the top. You can't come in and just slash without understanding context and history matter. And it's not like in government contracting, you don't have a huge documented history of programs, where they're from. You know what I mean? That's the whole basis of capture. Like capture is digging into and finding out about the customer. What are their buying habits? Are they risk averse? You know what I mean? Get to know me first before you decide I'm irrelevant.
Yeah. And I think the amount, like, sure, there's duplication, sure, there's waste and undoubtedly fraud throughout, but the fact that the corporate knowledge or the organizational knowledge base that has any sort of context as to why something's being done and what their action was to continue or discontinue it, or just all of those basic things that you really need to know to be able to make an educated decision on what's worth keeping, what's worth putting to the side, what's worth eliminating. Like, all of that knowledge is just all of a sudden gone. And you've got folks making decisions that have they gone through the history? Have they looked at the things? Have they done that due diligence to figure out, oh, this role really wasn't quite that important? And in a lot of cases, we're seeing it come back now to the, oh, that was important, so we're going to need to get you back here and you're going to need to return to office. And that's just absolutely destabilizing for organizations, because who wants to go work somewhere where their future and their livelihoods you put at risk and put into a position of having any sort of stability and any sort of foreseeable future? It's just not the most effective way, I would say, to go about sorting through the wheat from the chaff, for sure.
I do have to say, and I'm always looking for the silver lining. I'm not normally the most optimistic person in the room. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. Full disclosure, I know who I am. I totally get that. But I think the silver lining in this is not going to be positive for everybody who's been impacted by the overhaul, by DOGE, by everything that this administration has put into place. But it goes back to a fundamental belief that I have always preached and worked with our customers on, is that you need to understand and be able to clearly demonstrate your value. And so I think it really put industry and the government in particular under the microscope and say, show me your value. Explain to me why you are mission critical. Explain to me this. And everyone took it as such an affront. Like, how dare they? Like, if I've been doing this for whatever. I was like, I personally don't care. But if you're not supporting the mission, if you're not showing and demonstrating value, then it is easy for me to be very flippant about, then I don't need you. I can replace you with this, or I can consolidate, or I can bundle. Like, bundling and consolidation is not a new concept. It's really bad for small businesses who had all these other smaller components and pieces of one larger program. But I think it really, and I don't want to talk about DEI because that is something, but I feel like we have to at least throw out the word, okay, that I'm not trying to be insensitive about DEI, because I view DEI and diversity in a very different way, is that you need to be able to show that you have value, that you can't just get sole sourcing. You can't just get these set asides, that if you can't prove it. And so I think that's why we've seen so many more increases and so much more thoughtful and in-depth and bigger type of RFIs and market research opportunities. Now the government is doing what they should have been doing before, is like really looking at the value of what someone's bringing into the table. And I love the fact that they're moving to commercially available services and solutions. Hello, recreating the wheel. That's exactly what my issue with the government was, is like, why are we creating something when I can go out and purchase it commercially myself? It does not make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And why are we paying 9 times as much for something that we just needed a sticker that says government approved on, that we get from the commercial market? It's absurd, the level at which we go to make things different, or to, like you said, reinvent the wheel in
Everybody
situations.
wants to put their own spin on it. I used to work on a contract where the Air Force wanted to do their own and the Army wanted to do. If you looked
Yeah.
at the requirements, they were the same.
Oh, yeah.
But one of them wanted the pride and ownership, and it was hubris, total hubris.
Yep.
Yeah, those days I'm hoping are behind us, but probably not.
Yeah. I've still seen several things lately, even just within the past week, where it's an agency who's just trying to increase the utilization of their specific contract or their specific vehicle because they ultimately don't want to lose it to some sort of consolidation. Then they just want to make sure that it sticks around. And I think that's an interesting dynamic to play in because you start to see all of these competing organizations within the government, and they've all got their favorite tool or trick in the box to use. And it's whether it's their contract vehicle or whether it's somebody else's contract vehicle, it all comes down to having some sort of value placed in that positioning and having them wanting to put themselves in that boat. And I think every company out there right now has been struggling for the past year, probably, if not a little bit more, to really assert their value in the context that matters to their government customer. And it's like the DEI thing. I was not maybe a year ago where I was at an event and said, who wants to give me their 5 minute or 5 second capability pitch? Who wants to say their elevator speech in front of the audience, in front of the room? And just selected a couple of folks. And just about, I think 3 out of 4 of them started with, I'm a woman-owned small business. And I am a service disabled veteran-owned small business.
Like, that's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so good for you. If you've been winning on that so far, that's probably going to change, and you're going to need to actually state what it is that you do and the value that you bring in doing it.
Yeah.
And don't even forget about the outcomes you've achieved.
You probably get this all the time, right? Is you'll get a customer, I get people who call because they want access to my Rolodex.
Yeah.
And they'll say, hey, Ton, do you have a service disabled who has experience over at military, like with the VHA?
Yeah.
And I was like, doing what? Could you tell me a little bit more about the opportunity? Like what kind of skill sets, what kind of quals? Yeah, I probably could, but you can search that yourself in FPDS, or you can search that in any other research tool. Like, why are you coming to me for this? And you've got to retrain yourself. And I think industry is making the turn is we're starting because there is bundling, because these opportunities are bigger, because all the little things are starting to get consolidated together. We are going back to what we used to do back in the like 90s and early 2000s is really look at people's capabilities gaps, past performances.
Yeah.
So you got to go back to the basics. And this old girl here, I tell you, I'm loving the fact that we're going back to it because things are going to be scrappy. And this is reminiscent of sequestration, where a lot of companies folded and closed. And while that is unfortunate, I think that the defense industrial base became leaner and meaner and more focused. And I think everybody wins in that regard.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm curious about your take on, and the fact that the government for the past 5, 10 or so years has been like, our industrial base is shrinking. We need more companies in the industrial base. We need to make it easier. We need to make it that much more efficient and faster for companies to get involved. And I think you're probably right in that we're going to start seeing companies that can't demonstrate their value, that don't really have a true place in this contracting world. They will probably start to fold, and they will either go to the commercial markets or they will just close entirely. And how do you think that's going to impact the size and the basic development of the industrial base towards what the government wants, which seems to be a little bit bigger and a little less reliance on some of the big traditionals?
I am very conflicted because I do advocate for small businesses, and I think small businesses are challenged. But at the same time, if you're a small business and you're successful, then you become a mid-tier business. And I think that everyone's starting to realize, and we've had conversations and there's been updates with the SBA on increasing size standards for NACE codes and things like that. It's that whole purgatory middle market company situation. And I think that's really where a lot of companies will struggle. Small businesses will always get subcontracting dollars. The subcontracting plan and subcontracting requirements, I don't believe will go away. People are out there who will argue the counter and that large businesses are going to only want to keep this and that. And then small businesses are going to get like the drips and drabbles and the table scraps. And so, yes, there are always going to be the larges that are like that. But it goes back to, do you have a service or a product that is going to provide value?
Right.
Is it going to provide and support the mission of your end customer? Those companies will always survive. Those who don't have an identity will not. And you're right. I've spoken with a lot of people recently and over the past year on my podcasts and in general, where the numbers don't lie. The defense industrial base for small businesses is shrinking. The dollars awarded are decreasing. But if you look at the growth of the companies that are succeeding,
Yeah.
we need to look and mimic why they're succeeding, right?
Yeah.
They are diversifying. They're able to clearly demonstrate their value. They are great at teaming. There's nothing that is stopping you from creating an all small spender protege or joint venture.
Right.
And I said joint ventures, that is the hot thing. And if you think it's the new hot thing, then you're already 2 years, 3 years behind because it's been the hot thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that we need to really explore and look at, because if you look at all the awards on all the big vehicles, more than 60% of them are joint ventures.
Yeah.
And so they're not going away. And if you keep your head in the sand thinking that you're going to go in and do it in as a lone wolf,
Yeah.
26 might be a really tough year for you.
Oh, yeah. There's always going to be those companies that have this, we can do it ourselves, we don't need your help kind of mentality. And I think everybody knows that no one can do everything. There's no one company that can do it all.
Seriously, model after the bigs. I have never been on a big procurement opportunity with a large business where there were not multiple partners.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then it wasn't because they needed it because of their subcontracting plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those obligation type of teaming. It was a
Right.
very strategic teaming relationship. And so we all need to team. We all need to look for those strategic partners. But it's similar to a presentation that I gave several years back on teaming, Tinder teaming. Are you
Ooh, I
swiping
like
left,
it.
swiping right? And it's like there's a reason why you strategically team instead of teaming for convenience. So you need to understand the teaming construct is different for every opportunity,
Yes.
and it's different based on the complexity of the opportunity.
Yes.
So there's no one right side model for teaming.
And I love that. It puts me right in square in the middle of, wow, that company looks really attractive on the outside. I'm going to swipe right. And then finding out that, oh my gosh,
They're
they
a hot
have
mess. They
nothing
got
under
baggage.
They got nothing. There's nothing under that hood. Oh my God, what have I done here? Yeah.
They're super pretty, and then they talk, and you're like, oh, please don't talk. I'm just going to look at you and admire
Yes.
you.
Yes, from the outside, can we just keep this like an outside looking in relationship? Because anybody you talk to on the inside has got some horror stories to tell, and it's definitely a great way to think of it. And having a good sense, I think companies out there would behoove themselves to have a really great sense of what their capabilities, first of all, what their capabilities are, but then again, what those gaps are that they are consistently encountering when looking to bid on projects, because those gaps that you find that are common amongst project and project, then you've got a great opportunity there to find a great JV partner, and that fills that gap for you so that you can consistently put forward a confident, competent, compliant bid that everybody's looking to get in these days, for sure.
I hate to provide this visual, but you almost need to look at yourself like you're naked standing in front of the mirror, right?
Yes.
And you can't use AI. AI to me is like, what was that Disney movie, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the fairest of them all? Was that from Snow White?
Yeah.
And the mirror tells you exactly what you want to hear. That's AI. It is such a kiss ass. And it's like, oh, you're superly fantastic and overqualified, and no one can beat you. And it's okay, ask me. I'll tell you how I'm going to beat you.
Oh my gosh. And that kind of goes into this last point I think that we wanted to touch on, which is what are those big things that you're seeing the winners do right? And what are those that companies that are being successful, what are they doing right this year?
I think they're taking a more harder look at their pipeline. And it might seem so simplistic, But really, you do need to return to the KISS method, like the
Yeah.
keep it simple, stupid. And it's all starts with your pipeline. Your pipeline is your lifeblood.
Yeah.
It is going, it's just if you're going to the doctor and you get blood work and you get all these levels and, all these readings, and it's like your blood knows you're messed up
Yeah.
before maybe you're exhibiting any type of symptoms. And so we're seeing that a lot of people think that their pipeline is really healthy. We've been reviewing a lot of pipelines, and they're not, just because they see all of this action and activity, right? Oh,
Yeah.
we've got this on here and we've got that.
Yeah.
And then when you break it down to what's your P win, what's your weighted like actual value, they're like, oh, it's a $20 billion contract. Okay, let's pull that back a little bit.
Yeah.
It has the potential to be $20 billion. But seriously speaking, you might see maybe 5%, 1% of that
Yeah.
$20 billion. And
Yeah.
then let's add on top your potential P win. How confident are you in winning that 1%? And so when you start to peel back that onion and look at it at like a granular level, this $20 billion pipeline is really probably a couple million, if that.
Yeah.
And so they're getting a little, they're like, I don't want to say that I'm scaring the bejesus out of them, but like I'm making them really reevaluate their life choices. And we here at Entellect partner with Next Stage AI. And so we use their tool. And so there are so many different tools out there. I'm not
Yeah.
advocating one tool or another, but find something, find one tool, use and add to other things so that you can really better assess how healthy your pipeline is, and then
Yeah.
start adding more to it. And so a lot of people are thinking they need to cut things. Yes, you probably need to cut some dead weight out of there.
Yeah.
But if your pipeline is 20, 24, 36 months out and you've got nothing, you still need incoming revenue, because you could be
Yeah.
doged any day. You could lose a contract. Your contract could be terminated for convenience.
Yeah.
Option years are option years. That's why they're
Optional,
called
right?
options.
Yeah.
I find it really entertaining when people come in and say, can you believe they didn't award us our option year? I'm like, it's their right.
That was their option.
Their option.
They had the choice. So
Yeah.
yeah, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you didn't say only the folks that are using AI now are being successful, because I think that the excessive leveraging of AI is going to be the downfall of too many people in this market, for
Well,
sure.
I'm a capitalist. I love
Yeah.
people getting out there and putting their own spin on it. And there are some really great AI tools, and there's some really bad ones, and there are
Yeah.
some that are meh. But I don't think that there's going to be a tool out there in industry that doesn't have some type of an AI component or feature. You'd be an
Yeah.
idiot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You literally
Yeah.
would be an idiot if you didn't have some type of an AI feature. What I'm seeing now is like everybody and their grandmother wants to have a proposal feature in it.
Yep.
I've got my own opinions. I'm going to keep it to myself. But you're never going to be able to have one tool that's going to get you from cradle to grave. And if
Yeah.
they tell you that they can, they're lying to you, because the fact that you can't interject human thought, critical thinking, or understanding of the customer intimacy into that proposal, AI does not understand your customer.
Oh,
And I can tell you
absolutely.
things about your customer, and sometimes incorrect about your
Yeah.
customer, but you're not going to be able to, you might be able to write something faster.
Yeah.
And I'm a hypocrite. I want a $24 million contract using ChatGTP and AI, but it was a heavy lift. We
Yeah.
had to contribute, we had to add a lot to it. So it can be done as a partnership.
Yeah. And definitely inserting and making sure that the human stays in the loop, I think, is key in those differences and those relationships, and making sure that you're not overly dependent on it for any given thing in your business, I think will be the differentiator there for
Yeah.
folks. And I'm seeing folks, frankly, the folks that are really successful are really confident in what they do. They understand the value and the outputs that they're delivering and what they're able to provide. And they are very aware of their gaps, their flaws. They see themselves for what they are and not what they think that they could be on any given day. And they really fill those gaps in with competent and compliant companies that provide that value in the same way and same culture that they've been able to cultivate in their companies. And they've really taken a hard look at things that they don't want to bid, and they've been able to clear out their pipelines. They've been able to take that clutter out and focus really on those things that really are strategic and a little bit longer term, and the things that will bring them that past performance that they need and that will help them grow in ways with diversified agencies, that they aren't just staying with their core agency. They're getting out and experiencing other worlds. And they've really been able to translate the value that they bring to one customer across into another customer's language. So I've definitely seen a lot of that growth in companies that have been able to make that jump from their core customer into other customers and with other agencies, because they've just taken the time to translate the language that they're speaking and translate the value that they deliver to that core customer into the language of other customers, which I think is an incredibly valuable skill. So I would love to see that trend keep up in 26, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll see that.
This has been a fantastic conversation, Tom. And now I'm going to go to the how can people get a hold of you? And you gave us a sense earlier, and we'll just have you say it all again so we can get everybody out there and reaching out.
Absolutely. So you can always schedule a meeting, an appointment with me on my website. That's intellectllc.com. But I am prolifically a huge super user of LinkedIn. So if you don't see me posting on LinkedIn on a daily basis, send rescue somewhere because I'm probably on the side of the road in an accident somewhere, God forbid. But yeah, I would say LinkedIn, my website, and then also you can listen to me weekly on my podcast at Tanstwocents. And I appreciate being able to do a cross collaboration on our podcast together.
Absolutely. Likewise. And you'll hear this episode on Tanstwocents as well. So wherever you're joining us from, you can reach out to me at LinkedIn. I'm very constantly on LinkedIn as well, and at my website, collaborativecompositions.com. It's been a great conversation, Ton, and we'll have to pick this up again in the new year.
Oh, absolutely. To make this an annual event.
Absolutely. So. Sounds great. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for having me.